So let's move on to Ime Udoka. For you bitch asses. I just don't like how everyone I don't know because when certain people on TV they jumped on the Celtics bandwagon and that became a thing. So it was hard to like defend that with other people. Like you got Stephen A. Smith who spoke out against the Celtics and it made it seem like, oh, we're just gonna absolve Ime Udoka. Like, no. But anybody who's worked for any corporation and has been to an HR course, you know you're supposed to protect not only the potential victim, but the third party. So if you're if someone's sexually harassing you, or even if they're not, and you guys are having a grand old time, someone who hears it, they're a third party offended person or whatever, and they can bring you up on charges. So all these people who are involved now become involved into this thing because Boston didn't know how to roll out bad news about their head coach. And it's unfortunate because you saw Brad Stevens crying up there, which he should be crying because he messed up, not because, obviously there were a bunch of women, probably his wife, who told him, um, you didn't do a good job of protecting the women that work for you, the women that were, the other wives who had nothing to do with this. Um, they didn't think this through whatsoever. And now it gave Ime the out on if he did something wrong, he didn't get fired. So potentially, in my opinion, in my amateur opinion, he could sue the Celtics. He could probably sue the NBA if he doesn't get any more work. Because if this turns out to be something just between him and his owner's wife, then there's going to be a backlash on that. And if he can't get work because he's not trusted on that or whatever the case may be, I think the way that this rolled about, it can really affect the Celtics financially, especially if Ime sues them. Especially if that comes, I think somebody else, the woman involved can sue them. The women involved can sue them. We just saw your man Joe West sue the fuck out of Action Network because they mentioned his name. I don't know if they were joking around, but the mere fact that they played around with it, with his name as an authority figure in baseball, they sued his ass and he got 100 million. I don't know how much he got out of it, but and we don't even know what happened with Ime Udoka. The best thing that could happen for him is if Boston loses in the first round or doesn't make the playoffs or makes it to the second round. They don't develop. That's the best thing that could happen for him. Now, the worst thing that happened to me was allowing the word consensual to take place on some news like that. I have a daughter, anyone has daughters, you have a mom, you have a wife, let's Google the word consensual. And we know what it means, relating to or involving consent or consensus, right? But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the news articles. Man who claimed relationship with girl 15 was consensual is jailed. Prelim determines man to stand trial on 4 counts, including he claimed sex was consensual. She reported sexual abuse on the job. The boss told her it was consensual. A cleaner said she was raped. Rape, child molestation, rape. All these articles you'll see here, right? And look, he pops up. Ime Udoka pops up after like the 10th article on here. We go to the next page. All these articles, students tie-dye not to promote welcomeness in a sex harassment case. Okay. Victim on child rapist defense. Police sued. Consensual with consequences. Breaking company policies. Victim responds to child rapist defense. Every word that you see on here has to do with rape. That's what was so overlooked about this. Like that was that when I read the word, oh, they just want everyone to know that this was 100% consensual before any news broke out. It sounds like Ime Udoka put that out there, but the Celtics should have. It should have never been put out there. They should have never confirmed anything. They should have went up there and said, "Listen, we don't have. We've done our best. We've done. We're going through a process right now, and he has to take some time off or whatever it is." And in the middle of that, you leave people guessing. You don't confirm a damn thing when it comes to something like that because this happens. This is going to be a reference point for everyone, any organization, especially in sports, in the new era of social media and whatever the fuck we're at. You have to use this as a reference point because we really don't know if he did anything wrong. And then you backtrack on that original report that it was consensual and saying that it wasn't. That in itself sounds crazy. So that man is now a part of a non-consensual event, maybe, maybe not, and he's not in jail. And you don't think people want to speculate about that? You don't think an organization that makes, once again, a company, a fraternity that makes $8 to $10 billion, like the NBA, it became so high profile as soon as you mentioned it, and a word like consensual, you think that a story like that is just gonna go away? And then look what happened 2 weeks later. And this is what I mean about, I think Evan Fournier was the one on the Knicks. This is why I want to trade him, by the way. He can hit 3 pointers, put him on the bench. His reaction to that, to the Draymond Green situation, was like, there's no way you could get over something like that, or whatever the hell Evan Fournier said. You know why you can get over something like that? Because every other day it seems like there's new news. 3 weeks ago, it was Kevin Durant and the Nets were the worst people in the world. Then the Ime Udoka thing came out, and we totally forgot about the Nets situation. Now the Draymond punch happens, and we totally forgot about Ime Udoka. And it won't really be anything unless some crazy news comes out that it wasn't non-consensual and who's involved. And I don't think the owners are going to be popular enough to even keep this thing going, because it would have to be Jeffrey Epstein like, because Jeffrey Epstein seemed to be such an uninteresting character in terms of like charisma or whatever, that he needed every other person involved to make that an interesting story. Clintons, the royalty, this, that, and the third. Ime Udoka was first year head coach, black coach, African, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He was on the Brooklyn Nets bench. Um, Nia Long as his wife. All these things factor into him being this celebrity coach. He's probably the most popular coach aside from Popovich and Steve Kerr. Like, who else is that popular? Even Spoelstra is one. He's not on that level. It feels good. I could talk. I could talk to the crowd. I feel like I'm talking to people now instead of myself. Udoka is outside of Popovich, Kerr. Then you got Spoelstra one, and he's still not as popular. Masai Ujiri is a GM. Atlanta. No, that's it. So all these things factor into him being this news about to explode. And the Celtics didn't know what to do in that city. In that city, you think Boston is a crazy media town. It's an East Coast media town. It was just their fault. No matter how bad, whatever Ime Udoka did, no matter how bad it was, they dropped the ball even worse, because as a corporation, you're like the parent to all this. And they like, I don't see how, when we talk shit about other players, like, how can we say like, and they're a top flight organization. It's not like they're the Knicks. Like, this shit, like the Knicks are they make that much money and they're incompetent at the top. They are dysfunctional. They had Isaiah Thomas up there. They had their own sexual harassment case almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago. So we expect that from the Knicks. We didn't expect that from Boston and Brad Stevens and these Ivy Leaguers. We didn't expect that from them. And nobody's talking about that. They'd rather talk about Stephen A. Smith and Malika Andrews going back and forth. Which, by the way, she's about to go through her thing. She's a star. She's a wrestler too. The way she came at Stephen A. Smith, I hope she does it again because that's great. She's a wrestler, man. Stephen A. Smith is a wrestler. He's a heel. It's just like Draymond. They know what they're doing. The fact that you people react to them is the whole point. That's what ESPN wants. They're owned by Disney, but they don't say that. It's not Mickey Mouse on the front of the screen. It's some crazy dude with a hairline worse than mine, and it's Stephen A. Smith, and then Malika Andrews, the little pretty lollipop chick who ain't so lollipop. That girl is she's a little conniving, but I like it. I love it. I love that. I love anyone who just knows how to make you guys go crazy because you guys forget about the gas, the price of gas. You forget that nuclear weapons are upon us. It's great, and we're fooled by all this. But the Celtics dropped the ball. Look at Golden State on the other hand with the Draymond scenario, man. They didn't give a fuck. They said, "Here's the tape. We're paying you way less than whatever you want, Draymond, and this is why your run is over. So go run and go join your lover boy LeBron and try to see how much you could get from the Lakers, because you ain't getting that from us. Guaranteed. He ain't getting no 4 years, $109 million. No way. He had a nice run though. Whatever he does get from elsewhere, Draymond does, it doesn't matter. He had a nice run. Ime Udoka, on the other hand, will he get anything out of this? I don't know. But there is room for a lawsuit. And I don't like they're not talking about the Celtics enough. You bring up like the Brett Favre thing. We always have some crazy analogy. I get it. Brett Favre is a scumbag, but he doesn't play anymore. Like, without aside from this, when else are you going to hear about Brett Favre? It's the same thing with Ime Udoka. Really, when else can you possibly hear? Why would it be relevant to bring up Ime Udoka at this point, unless we hear more news? Why would it be just like when more news came out about Brett Favre? It became relevant again. He came out and denied everything. He denies that he is a scumbag. Brett, we don't believe you in your Lee jeans. We don't. Whatever the fuck you be drinking with your Wrangler jeans, whatever it is, we don't believe you at all. I don't believe you. You had like 25 concussions. Use that as an excuse. I think it was the CTE guys. That's what Brett Favre should say. But I don't think it's relevant to Ime Udoka. We can bring it up on our own. We don't have to claim racism for everything. Like, that shit is boy that cry wolf after a while. Yo, let the racist shit be racist. I don't need a magnifying glass on bullshit. Michael Vick was talked about the way that he did. There's a lot of people that love dogs that I didn't even know that love dogs. I thought it was fucked up. That are black. That are that come from the fucking hood, black, Spanish, black, whatever. That fight dogs, and they still said like, yeah, that was fucked up. I know people that own dogs that said that was fucked up, Mike Vick. That was dumb. And you're a millionaire. What are you doing in the middle of your career? You had no reason to have an operation like that running. Brett Favre, we can kind of see it because politics works that way, especially with the people he's tied into, the political angle of it. Remember, the NFL, ESPN, all these guys, which is, I think, the argument, which people should stick to, is that when it came down to it, Colin Kaepernick being banned, Trump speaking the way that he did, and the NFL owners really didn't go back at Trump, is because they were waiting on something for Trump, like some rule to be passed in their favor. It's all really like the NFL is promoted as if it was a Republican Party. And that's the part that, and Brett Favre is tied into the Republican Party. He's a Trump supporter. The guy he was tied into it with the text messages and this scam going on with welfare. It's all on the Republican side. So all of that makes sense as to why they wouldn't promote it, especially on an ESPN that's known as liberal and complained about as liberal by Republican people. But that's where the hypocrisy takes place, because you don't see Fox. I don't think I see Fox News talking about it. I don't watch Fox News, so I don't know. But you won't hear Jason Whitlock really talk about it like that. Like, hey, Brett Favre's a scumbag. He should be talked about like this. Let's see. Let me Google that before I talk out of my ass. Jason Whitlock. Jason Whitlock is a cock. Jason Whitlock, Brett Favre. Jason Whitlock sounds off on Brett Favre and his entitlement. Oh shit. Everyone should feel fucking stupid.
I'm not going to shed any tears over what happens to Brett Favre. I'm really not because the entitlement of this action is just.
You
I'm
see,
not going to shed any tears over what happens to Brett Favre. I'm really not because the entitlement. I'm not going to shed any tears over what happens to Brett Favre. I'm really not because the entitlement of this action is just too over the top for me. I agree. You know, I write checks to Ball State. I don't have near Brett Favre's money. I'm sure he's given some money to Southern Miss, but no way he should be involved with some shady government officials trying to redirect money and get the credit and all that other stuff. It's a bad look for Brett Favre. He deserves some punishment. But this hyper focus on Brett Favre from people that aren't hyper focused on the governor of Mississippi at that time.
yes.
I believe his
Mhm.
last name is Bryant. That and again, he says he didn't know. He's claiming ignorance, and that may get blown up in his face. But if we really want change, let's get that governor.
Actually, it's kind of Jason Whitlockish, but he didn't. He didn't. He's saying where we should focus our attention on. And again, it's the Republican thing. It's the NFL is promoted that way. Wrangler Gene, Budweiser drinking, Brett Favre. People not gonna like he. I'm not. I don't. If he stole that much money, we can tie into it. It's not that sexy of a story compared to Ime Udoka banging the owner's wife. That is way sexier than anything you could come up with Brett Favre. He's not fun anymore. He used to be fun when he was playing. And Brett Favre had scandals when he was on the Jets too. But again, that's not it's apples and oranges in a sense. Like, and he is talked about. It's not like he's not. People it's just that, and I joked around about it and I said, don't get lost with the Brett Favre news, with the Ime Udoka news. But, I'm tongue in cheek. I don't give a fuck about that shit. Um, and yeah, those are the two biggest stories in the offseason. And it's I just want to end with that anything can happen at any given time. Like culture is culture. The Golden State culture, we thought Boston was close to it. After this, what took place, I'm not sure if it's close to what Golden State has going on. Um, they because they're on a slippery slope as well. And I don't even know how great Golden State's culture is, as much as they're just saying, hey, how much can we get away with? Like, they think these things through. Steve Kerr doesn't seem like a bimbo. Bob Myers, they don't come off as bimbos. They've always, pumped up Draymond Green. They, like I said, they calculated everything about this guy. And Boston, they obviously calculated everything with Ime Udoka. I think the major factor is that whoever's husband that is, that he's embarrassed by this and he wants to pull rank. He definitely wants to show that, you know, he is that guy.